Do you have an unhealthy approach when it comes to your whole body fitness? On today's show, we interviewed Robin Long, who's a Pilates instructor and founder and CEO of Lindywell, that was named the #1 Pilates app in 2022. She has led a community of women, hundreds of thousands of women who live a grace over guilt approach to their whole body fitness. Robin is an amazing instructor, mom, CEO, and I loved this conversation diving into health, the whole person, what she has done, how to balance your time well. It's going to be an amazing episode.
Okay, so here's the thing. How are families like us, who don't want to hustle away thousands of hours per week, how do we stop trading time for money so we can create residual income, so we can break poverty and build generational wealth?
All without neglecting our family. If that's your mission, this podcast is your motivation. Listen in as we leave the I can't mindset behind and push powerfully into the abundance of how can I instead.
We are Stephen and Chelsea.
And this is the Rainmaker Family Show. I am so excited for today's guest, Robin. I'm so excited to have you on. I know we're in the same mastermind, and when I arrived at the location, I feel like I leaned over to Steven. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Robin." I had a little bit of like a fangirl moment, only because Robin, you are absolutely incredible, but you were really my first introduction for my love of Pilates and bar. I had a friend who I think knew about your program like way back when, like 8 or 9 years ago. And she told me about like your workouts. And I started following you. And I think up until that point, I was very much in the like, I need to do cardio all the time, kind of in that. I'd done CrossFit, and there's nothing wrong if that's like your workout that works for you. But I really learned about the beauty and how just to be more intentional with my workouts. And so I would like play a workout that you did. It was like 10 to 15 minutes. And I remember getting like sore, and like it was my first like time being like, wow, like I'm working these core muscles and I can have balance. And that really led me on this journey. Like looking back on it, it was like the beginning of leading me on a journey to really understand my body and how it works. And since then, I dove deep into like birth and not being a fearful and like all of those things. And now my favorite kind of workout and things are bar and Pilates and really focusing inward. So you are the one who introduced me to that. And I'm so excited to have our listeners to hear from you, because I feel like you balance things so well. And even being around you, however many months ago it was now, like you just carry this like peaceful presence with you. Like what you give out is like so beautiful, just giving women confidence in their bodies and saying that this can be done differently. And so you're definitely one of those catalyst moments as I look back on my life. So it's so cool to have you on the show. I know our listeners are going to learn a lot from you. So welcome.
Thank you. My gosh, that just makes me feel so happy. I love knowing the story on the other side of, the screen or the other side of the workouts. So I'm so glad that it's resonated with you and what you said of just helping you kind of create a whole new approach and connection with your body and exercise and movement. That's my hope. So I'm so glad.
I think, Robin, I've done one Pilates workout with you online, and I quit immediately at the part.
Because it's harder than it looks, right? It looks like just stretching and
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, this looks easy, babe. I'm
yeah.
gonna join you." We were in this like tiny 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, like I don't know what you call this thing, like
Studio
bungalow.
apartment.
Had this little loft up where we kind of do our work, little spiral staircase up. It was this tiny little place. I remember doing that like once with you, and I was just like, okay, this is way harder than it looks. Yeah. So
Uh-huh, and it hits those different muscles that you're not used to working. I used to teach in this studio that had, like, glass walls at a gym, and I used to say that all the time. Everybody walks by just thinking, "Oh, that looks such a nice stretch," until you come in and you feel it in your body, and yes, it's got some great stretching, but it's a unique challenge too, so good job, Steven. We need to get you to do another one, though. We just released a partner workout, so you guys can do it together. It'll be great. I'd like to see video.
we'll put this on Instagram Reels, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So this topic of this podcast, so we really want to go deep on health. We feel like as we've gone deeper on health, like the topic of health, we feel like this is such a hidden superpower. Specifically, like we have a ton of moms that listen to the show. And when health is not, being leaned into, being fully optimized, like it can affect so much. It can affect our parenting, our business, entrepreneurship, our marriage. And as we've been learning, it's kind of like this, like you crack this thing open and it's like a
Mhm.
deeper well, and I love that even in your program, I mean, you've brought on experts who do breath work and do nutrition. And it's not just about Pilates, right? It's like it's about let's talk to the whole person. And
Mhm.
I would love to talk to some of those things like a little bit. I mean, my first experience with breath work was actually at the mastermind we were in. That was my first time really doing a kind of like a extended breathwork session. It was pretty crazy. Like I was like, oh my gosh. So I think like thinking about, our moms listening to the show, what would be a good first step for someone who is looking to like this year, I wanna really move the needle in my health a little bit, What would be a good first step for them that you see is a step towards that transformation?
That's a really good question. And I think a lot of people, it can feel really overwhelming to know where to start because, especially if you're a mom and you've got so many responsibilities on your plate every day and you've got so many people that you need to take care of. And it's really hard to know where to start. And so I am a big proponent and actually kind of got known for this. Chelsea, you mentioned it, but in this concept of like a 10 or 15-minute workout. And when I say that, I get a lot of pushback. A lot of people will say, "Oh, that's not enough. That's not really gonna do anything," and I get that. But the approach is really surrounded by how to create behavioral change or how to build habits into your life. And that's a step that I think a lot of people skip over. They want the outcome. Right? So whether that is, lose the weight, build the muscle, whatever the big goal is at the end. And so a lot of people focus on that first and like, what do I need to do to get there? But I like to kind of bring it back to the beginning and say, what are the habits that we can actually build into our life that are going to help us feel better. And honestly, we have to first feel better and feel successful about what we're doing in order for that to create lasting change over time that then will lead to those bigger outcomes, right? Whether that's the weight loss or the body or the running a marathon or uh, quicker recovery postpartum, whatever the goal might be. So just bringing it back to what is one small thing you can do? And that might be this 10 or 15-minute workout approach. Like literally, if you've got little ones at home, I have 4 kids. So I've been in the thick of it for the last 9 years. And, roll that mat out, or whether it's a walk, whether it's a dance party with your kids, whether it's Pilates, give yourself that little bit and don't underestimate the value of what you're doing for yourself there because you are building a habit, you are building self trust in yourself to say, okay, I can take this little bit of time for myself, even if it's just a little bit. And then there's a spiral effect that happens eventually from there. So that's where I like people to think about starting really, really small.
I love that. That's very true. Yesterday I did like a quick 10-minute Pilates like workout and I was like, "Ah, that was just what I had in my schedule." And my abs are sore this morning. But I love that like creating like habits that are going to last, that are going to make you feel better and showing up. And I felt great being like, I did it. I did the 10 minutes. And thinking about today, I'm like, yeah, I could do that again. I don't have to start out with an hour, 2 hours, like, I can start with 10 minutes and what feels good and what works for me.
That's good.
And I'm sure you guys see that a lot, right? It's very similar in starting a business or doing a lot of other things in life is that kind of all or nothing approach that we all get caught up in, right? Like I either have to go all in or I have to be perfect. I have to start this whole new plan or it has to be at least an hour or I have to get sweaty. We all have a different definition of like what makes it worth it. And when we can step out of that and just say, truly, every little bit does count. It really does because I see it with our members. I see it in myself. Like I can tell you this works. And there's tons of research to back that up. It really can, breaking through of that all or nothing mentality can make a huge shift in fitness, your eating, your stress levels, your business. It kind of can apply across all parts of life.
That's amazing. Now, Robin, I mean, you have 4 kids. You're running a massive membership site, that is providing all these services. I'm sure you have a big team, and you must have some secrets on how you schedule your time, to really keep that the balance between, being a mom, being a wife, like running a business. What is your secret sauce on scheduling?
Oh my gosh. I spend a lot of time on my schedule. And so I think that is something people don't see. It's always a very behind the scenes thing, how people manage their time. I'm certainly not perfect at it. I don't try to be perfect at anything I do. I think that's good. I'm not a perfectionist. On an Enneagram, I'm a 3, so I'm driven, but I'm not a perfectionist. So it kind of balances out. But and this has changed through every season of business and every season of life in different ways. So I think that's always important to know. And I always want to remind people of that too. I know you guys have a lot of parents in your audience, right? And how something looked for me after my having my first kid, to my second kid, to the twins when they came, it has changed with every season, and I want that to be encouraging to people because it can in the seasons where it's really hard and it just feels like I don't have enough time, I'm not gonna be able to figure this out. That season's not gonna last forever. Like, I just hit the stage, you guys, Matt and I did, my husband, where we can wake up and get, like, 15 to 20 minutes before the kids wake up. Like, it's amazing. We've tried that before, but for whatever reason, we would try and then they'd wake up super early. Like, we're just getting there to where we can actually have a little bit of a morning routine that is actually kind of consistent. So and for the last 4 years, it's or more, it's just been like, it's nice try, but I literally have 10 minutes. All that to say, grace for where you're at in your journey and know that I've adapted this process to fit every different season and it's looked different. But every Sunday night, Matt and I, my husband and I, we sit down. And now this is like maybe a 10-minute meeting because I'm really tired on Sunday nights usually. And I'm like, I just want to go to bed. But we both pull up our Google calendars that we share together and we just go through the whole week and look at, okay, who's doing pickup this day? Who's doing drop off that day? Who's taking that dentist appointment? When do you have a meeting? Are we doing a date night? Like we run our calendars by each other. And that's huge because it just helps us go into the week knowing where we need to ask for some help, who's kind of on point and who's not on point for certain things. And then we can see if we have any conflicts with our schedule, which usually requires one of us moving something around. And then from there, we use Asana. So that's a project management tool. I'm not sure if you guys use that or if people in your audience do, but it's basically like a to-do list, project management. So I love Asana. Whether you have a team or don't have a team, it's a great way to just manage your tasks. And anything that's in my Asana, so everything I need to do from what the team needs me to do to personal tasks, everything is in my Asana. And if it takes me more than 15 minutes, it's gonna have a time block in my calendar. I should say more than 20 to 30 minutes, actually. It's gonna have a time block in my calendar because what I kept running into, it was really frustrating and unrealistic, is I would get to the end of every day and I'd be like, I didn't get anything done on my to-do list, right? Because I forgot to account for the fact that I'm on 2 podcasts that day and I'm in meetings for 3 hours that day and I have to do school pickup that day. And yet I still had this long list of tasks that I thought I need to get done. So now everything is accounted for in my calendar. And then there's, little tasks in there that I can do in between meetings or different things. But it's really helped me to understand my capacity better because before I think I was just like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And then I was frustrated by my inability to get through it all. So now it's helped me understand, sorry, I can't do that. Like I can't do that today. I can't do that this week. We need to find another time. Or if I'm going to do that, we have to move this other thing. And so it's been super helpful for me to time block almost everything that takes more than 30 minutes in my calendar.
I love that rule. Like, that is very cool because I think,
Mhm.
like, I do that where I have these bigger tasks. I'm not, it's like, that's a 2-hour thing, right? But then I have all these little easy things, right? And sometimes you want that just dopamine hit of checking the box and getting things done. You fill your day with all the little stuff and you're like, oh, wait, I need to really move this bigger rock? So I love that idea of just having intentional time on the calendar, specifically for things that are going to take longer than
Mhm.
20, 30 minutes. Just be like, just calendar it, just put it in that way it can get done, and all that other little stuff can happen in between. That's a super wise tip. I love that.
Thanks. It's been really helpful, and I literally that's the only way I know where I'm supposed to be where I am supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing, like and I do have an assistant, so I wanna, share that. I don't do it all on my own, but she really helps me to manage that to make sure, the team's requesting this, but I am supposed to be here, just kind of running traffic interference, and it's hour by hour, literally.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so important. I would love to go back a little bit as far as like your introduction to like Pilates. I know you like taught it for a long time before launching your membership and growing a big following. But like, what was your introduction to it? Like, why did you start doing Pilates? What maybe are some like myths that you might hear about Pilates, or why do you love it so much and feel like it's such a important thing for like the whole person to be doing?
Yes. I love this question. So, when I think back to where I was when I found Pilates, I was working, in a commercial real estate development company, so it was, kind of fresh out of college, and I was experiencing for the first time in my life in that season really bad anxiety, like paralyzing anxiety, and I had never experienced that before. I was super stressed. I had a lot of pain in my body, like unexplained aches and pains. I was going to doctors and getting no answers, which made my anxiety skyrocket even more. Um, and in addition to that, I was also just still very much in kind of the approach to health and fitness that I grew up with that I grew up with, which is, basically informed by diet culture, kind of in that habit of just feeling like I need to work out. I should work out. I got to burn calories. I want to get thinner. I always want to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds or like it's just a constant dissatisfaction with my body and a relationship with exercise that was like, I need to work out to burn off the food that I just ate because that was bad. I'm not saying that now. That was my definition then. That was bad. Or, part of that, like, oh, you know, better work out this morning because I'm going to have Super Bowl snacks this afternoon. Or like this constant, like, punishment for enjoying food. Like it was a really unhealthy relationship. And a lot of people, that's very normal. So we hear that from people all the time, like, and we joke about it. And I'm, not like a stickler. It's okay if you joke about that kind of thing. But for some people, and myself included at the time, that was actually a really unhealthy relationship where I had just had really bad body image, really insecure in that. But, I was pretty miserable in it. And as a result, didn't really enjoy exercise. Like it was a form of punishment, really, right? Like I just got to burn calories and I want to get skinnier. And so here I am. So when I found Pilates, I went to a Pilates studio and I just thought maybe this will be the thing that will take away some of these aches and pains in my body that I was experiencing. And I can still remember that first class as the instructor guided me through and just feeling some of the tension that I had been holding in my body, the stress literally like melting away. And up until that point, I didn't really understand the connection of stress in the body and how you really can hold stress in the body. But oh my gosh, it was like something clicked and I realized so much stress and tension and anxiety was being held in my body. So that kind of kickstarted it for me. And then the best part though is I fell in love with the whole method and then I loved it. So it had a completely different experience than like me trying to force myself to go on the elliptical at the gym. And I saw better results than I had ever seen with all those years and hours of forcing myself to work out in a way that I didn't enjoy. Like I saw muscle development, I saw improved like less back pain, my scoliosis got better, my jaw pain diminished and it was like this works. So I just got super excited. Became a certified instructor pretty early on. And I had often thought about being like a yoga instructor or something, but it just never fully resonated. So when I found Pilates, I was like, this is just it. So that for me was what kickstarted it. And I just was like, I want everyone to be able to experience this. And Pilates is pretty inaccessible still for a lot of people. So it's really expensive to do Pilates in a studio. I'm not saying don't do it if you can, it's in your budget, do it. It's amazing working with an instructor or being on the equipment. But I also know that for a lot of people, it's not in the budget to go to a studio and pay over $100 an hour for, private sessions or $40 an hour for a class. And so figuring out for me how to bring Pilates to people who can't normally access it was a huge passion of mine. And also bringing together, it's not just Pilates, because even within Pilates, there can be a lot of competition. There can still be that body image stuff. There can be a lot of that stuff in the fitness world that I don't resonate with anymore. So I also wanted to bring that holistic, what we call a grace over guilt approach to Pilates so that people could kind of have that double benefit, the benefits of Pilates, but also the shift in thinking and mindset.
Mm,
I think that's what I noticed just hearing even Chelsea going. I mean, this was years ago, but like
mhm.
even back then, it wasn't just about the workout. Like you'd be talking, it's kind of like it's almost like Bob Ross, where he's like he's
Yes.
painting, but he's also like kind of telling you his worldview and his mindsets,
Mhm,
and you kinda catch it over time, right?
yeah.
You just, like, being around it, and a lot of people don't have that positive voice in their life
Mhm,
sometimes of just, like sometimes these mindsets take
mhm,
time and just soaking in it,
mhm,
and just to have that, especially paired with physical, like, movement, like, it really,
mhm,
there's studies on that where, like, if you have physical movement paired with, learning or, someone teaching, like, it just really makes it, from head to heart so much faster, so I think it's so powerful, and, when you have that, um, I've been starting to work out again, so you could probably laugh at me, but I really struggle with, like, working out for so many years because I think that, like, it was kinda always just, like, I always saw the negative, the punishment side of things, or, like,
mhm,
it just was not fun, or it was also I would see it was so time consuming, and so, like, as an entrepreneur, I'm like, "Where's the ROI?" Like, it's like, "Oh, what? I gotta
mhm.
drive there and then shower, it's 2 hours, and, like, I could be making money over here." So I had all these objections in my mind,
Mhm,
so I finally found this year a thing that works for me that
mhm,
is very time efficient and does, uh, kinda speak to that whole person side of things. It's not just working out, but there's, like, mental stimulation in there, and for me, that's like having a personal trainer that comes to our house, um, but I know not everyone can do that, and, like, so having something like this where you can plug in and have it, at a very accessible price point, like, pretty amazing. So, yeah.
And that was my same story in the time efficiency thing. I mean, if you look at my calendar, you'll see I'm like all about that time efficiency, but by necessity, right? So I again, that's great if you can go to a studio or go to a gym and make that work in your schedule, but for me, literally you said 2 hours, that's what it was. I remember one time I was packing up my kids. I was like, "Okay, great. There's a new bar studio in town. I can't wait to try this. It's like 10 minutes from my house, 10 minutes from my house. But then so about 30 minutes before I need to leave, so about 40 minutes before the class, I'm packing the snacks, I'm packing the water bottles, I'm getting the kids ready, I'm changing diapers, and they have childcare, so I'm like, "This is gonna be great." And then get there, then have to get them set up. That takes, like, 15 minutes to get them registered and signed in. They're crying, they don't wanna go in the childcare center. An hour of the workout where I got called out, like, 2 or 3 times. Then get them, go back, get them. They threw goldfish everywhere, I have to clean up. Anyways, it's like 2.5, 3 hours later, that one workout class, and I'm like, "I can't do this." Like, I just can't. So, if you're in a season where that works for you, that's awesome, and go for it. But just know, like Steven just shared too, that that's not the only option. There are a lot of ways, like, that's why I love, the app or do it from home, is you can drop in, get it done in 20 minutes. Don't even have to change your clothes if you don't want to, and kinda go right back into where you're needed, and I think that's an important part of the mindset shift as well, is figuring out what works for you in the season that you're in and honoring that.
That's totally good, yeah, and it might not always be that thing
mm,
because seasons change,
mhm,
but really knowing thyself in that
mhm.
season is really
Yeah.
important.
Well, another thing that you were talking about, like knowing what season, but even like for women, like knowing where you're at in
Yes.
like your month cycle. Cause like there are certain weeks and days where I just want to like go and hibernate when my cycle's about to start. And like a walk is probably the best thing for my body versus like this week, like I'm like, wow, I could do like the more intense workout if I wanted to, or I could just do a walk. And so that's another important thing to pay attention to. But I just love how like Pilates is so much, and what you do is like so much about being in tune and like grace over guilt. And even like a year or two ago, I would have been like not shaming myself, but hard on myself for like, no, you need to go in and get the workout done. And now I'm like, I can go for a 20-minute walk and I am good. And that is what my body needs today. I'm honoring my body. And that language pattern like I would have never had that,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
year or 2 ago even. So,
I love to hear that. And to your cycle, that's like a great point for women and for men too. You have different seasons, right? And different feelings of where you're at, like in your stress and all of those things. And that's women too. Like I was in a season these last few years where I found out based on some health tests, hormone tests really, that my hormones were super out of balance because of stress. So call it stress or call it having 4 kids in 5 years, same thing. Having that stressor on my body and in my life, that's really important for people to always stay in tune with, right? Because exercise is also a stress on your body. So it can be a really good stress, right? That's how you get stronger, by putting stress on your body and then you recover and get stronger. But if you're in a place where you're in a really stressed out place in your life, or you're maybe newly postpartum, or you're going through just a lot in your life and you feel really overwhelmed, knowing that and honoring that is super important, that you don't overtax your system. I don't think people talk about that side of it enough. They just think harder is better, more is always better. But I, for the last year and a half, really have not even been able to do high intensity workouts or anything like that because it actually does more harm to where I'm at than good. So I need to be in the walking, the Pilates, and kind of listen to my body and push and ramp up when I feel like I've had good sleep, I'm well nourished, I'm not going through a really stressful week. But a lot of people just tune that part out and just always do whatever, they're accustomed to doing. So I think that's a really important point. The season can change by year, or the season can even change day to day, week to week based on how you're feeling.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something we have learned in the last year is like sometimes even
Mm.
weight loss can be affected by stress, right? Because your body will hold weight because of stress. So doing a stressful, high intensity workout might not be the key to losing weight if the stress is there. And so
Mhm.
really looking at the whole body is so powerful. I mean, talk about a little bit. I love like making this more accessible because me and Chelsea, as we've gone down the deep rabbit hole of health, it's like lasers and light, saunas, and like all these PEMF like expensive things. And we did like an episode about like some of our fun investments that we've made in our health. But like there's a lot of also free things like breathing, like, like talk up to the person who really wants to make a change here. Of course, like if you have the money to go do the light therapy and all this stuff, go do that or build a business with us and like we'll help you have the money to go do that. But, there's so many, like, free things. What's the most effective, like, kind of just easily accessible thing, that you've worked maybe into your routine or you've seen, people going through your program do that has a lot of impact?
I love this question because I also go down the rabbit hole, and I have a sauna, like I love it. But this is also what I do for a living and my passion and all of those things. But my biggest goal is making things accessible. And the best part is that the more you learn about some of these things, whether it's red light therapy, sauna, cryotherapy, all of these great things, they're really accessible too. So you don't have to spend the thousands and things to get this equipment. You can, but there's so many things that I wrote a book and it's coming out in the fall. So I'm really excited about that. The book really is kind of, if I could take all of those things and make them super accessible for people, it's really within us. That's the cool thing I think about our design and our bodies. So we know that movement, I know that's like so boring, but movement it's super motivating when you think beyond just calorie burn or just beyond weight loss and you think about what happens when we move our bodies. Like I've been totally nerding out on the lymphatic system. So our lymphatic fluid runs through our body. It's our number one way of detoxing our body is our lymphatic fluid and our lymphatic system. It doesn't have a pump on its own, like our cardiovascular system, right? The heart pumps the blood through the system. The only way that we can pump and move lymphatic fluid, or the best ways, movement and breathing. And so this is why, Chelsea, even just going for a walk, like these are not small things. So many of us sit so much throughout the day, myself included. So getting up and walking, it pumps these points in our body that send the lymphatic fluid, which again detoxifies our body. It's one of the key things that it does. It also is one of the key factors in our immune system. So if you can get your lymphatic fluid moving more often, you're doing something really incredible for your health and you may not even notice it. What I love is that Pilates also, like, specifically workouts like Pilates, this would be true for yoga as well, but that have a lot of different type of rotation exercises, and just think of it as getting your body into positions you normally wouldn't be in, right? So, something maybe like running or even typical weight training may not get you into some of these rotational positions, but when we do that, you're actually pumping and working through some of those main ducts in the lymphatic system to really get things moving. So that's one thing that I love. Another thing is sunlight, daylight. So, those of you who live in cloudy places, daylight is just as you can do that. It doesn't have to be sunny, it can be cloudy. But, all of this, all the red light therapy and all of the things that are coming out, it's great. But you can also just go outside and spend 20 minutes outside, preferably before noon, to really start to wake up um, your body. So when you do that in the morning, it tells your melatonin to go down and your cortisol to rise. So it starts to set your internal body clock so that you can have natural energy throughout the day and have healthy hormone fluctuations. Is something I've been working on. So that's free, right? We can all step outside and get that daylight. We just don't sometimes because we're at our computers starting to work or doing other things. And then another one is the breath. So again, what someone was sharing something with me like about this whole oxygen thing that he was really excited about in this whole book. And I said to him, and he's a friend of mine, and I was like, well, have you just focused on your breathing yet? Like just breathing better? And he's like, no, I want this whole machine and this contraption. And I'm like, that's awesome. But we also first just need to consider how we're breathing throughout the day. So many of us are breathing shallow. We're compressed. So even right now, I'm leaning forward. So I'm compressing my diaphragm, compressing my lungs. So I'm not getting my full oxygen intake, right? And we know that when we are in this place of shallow breathing, not fully moving our diaphragm, which is one of the key things that pumps lymphatic fluid through our system, we are more likely to be in a state of stress in our nervous system. So think of kind of fight or flight mode, right? That's shallow breathing, poor circulation. But if we can get that breath moving, slow it down, we can slow our heart rate. We can bring our nervous system back into a place of rest and digest. This is where we heal. This is where we recover. This is where we can think more clearly, where we can actually get into relationship with other people. So for marriage, I think about this a lot when I'm like in this mode and for some reason I can't connect with my husband very well, because I'm not calm. I'm not safe. I'm not in that place of, yeah, safety, really. And so those are a couple of things that come to mind. So movement, light, and breath. You can spend thousands of dollars on equipment that help you with that, or you can also use those free things that are right within our body and accessible to all of us and have a really significant impact.
Oh,
Mm,
that's awesome.
wow.
Oh, this has been such a powerful conversation because we love geeking out on this topic. It's been definitely a theme of our kind of like last year and this year. We've been just really, we've invested a lot in our business and our marriage and our mindset. But like now
Mm.
it's kind of like this is another frontier that we're really
Yeah.
investing in. And so I don't know for someone who is really drawn to even what you're saying, and of course, you got a book coming out in the fall. But like right now, where's a good place for people to connect with you if they want to go deeper on some of these topics?
Yeah, so you can head over to lindywell.com. That's our website, and that's probably the easiest place to just find all of the things that we're offering. But we have our app with Pilates workouts that can be done from home. And then we also have breath work in our app now, too. So you can have access to Pilates, or if you just want, a 5-minute breathing exercise and they're guided, that's something you can kind of use throughout your day. And we are often doing free challenges and different things like that to have you give it a try. So just go over to lindywell.com and you'll be able to figure out how to join us.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Robin, for being on your wealth of knowledge. And I love your perspective. So thanks for pioneering this and for being such a light to women and men and their families who just want to learn more about how to live that grace filled life, grace over guilt that you model so beautifully. So thanks for being on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom, you can get that call at makeitrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeitrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode.
To continue your Rainmaker journey, check out the links in the show notes and let's connect.
And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with a friend today.